just super excited about what's coming over the next several months here.
Absolutely. And as we're getting started today, welcome everyone. Looks like we've got some more people filtering in here, but this is just the SOLIDWORKS What's New. So today we'll be taking a look at all the new features coming up in 2023, released in November. So there's a lot of great features to look forward to, and I'll be jumping out and maximizing the screen share here, and I'll be walking through those new features with you. And then towards the end, we'll jump back and have a little discussion. But throughout, there's a chat on the right side of your video, depending on how you have it minimized or maximized. Jump in there, ask any questions as we're going. We're in the chat as well. We've got people in the chat to answer those questions. And then in addition, if you're seeing any features, anything specifically that really is like, wow, I could really use that in my workflow, we want to jump on a call after this and really have that conversation with you. We can show very in-depth on how that works, do some validation testing with you beforehand, and just carry on the excitement. So we're going to be rushing through a lot of content in about an hour here. So it's really more of just like getting you a quick view of what's coming, quick overview of the features that are going to be introduced. And we really want to have that conversation with you more in depth after the fact on how it can be used for your organization.
I mean, definitely that's kind of the SWYFT approach, right? One-on-one consulting. We really like to dig deep into organizations and specific features, or how you're utilizing different tools, and how we can best, get you set up for success in those business outcomes you're looking for. Also, as you're entering in your questions in the chat, even if you don't have a question, just go ahead and type in hi, or some type of comment in there. If you go through there, we'll be paying attention, and we'll pick a few of you guys to send some swag. So maybe you'll be getting a hat like this, or some other SWYFT gear. So something kind of fun to encourage some engagement. So feel free to jump in there and make a comment or a thumbs up, or mock us on some type of blunder that we make over here in the next little bit.
Alrighty. Well, if you're all set, Stephen, I'll go ahead and switch over to the screen share, and we can get started with the What's New content.
Perfect.
All right. All right, this year we're using a large number of assemblies to go through the story of the enhancements, and we have a lot of enhancements to cover. So here we can see a little bit of a roadmap of what we'll be covering today. We're going to be starting off with the user experience. And for this user experience, we're going to be taking a look at a sewing machine model. With this, we've got a list here. So we're going to be taking a look at comments, enhancement to the comment system. The default settings reset options have been tuned a little bit further, and the render system has improved as well. So here we have this sewing machine open in SOLIDWORKS, and we're going to start by taking a look at the enhancements and the comments for the user experience here. So we'll go ahead and open up this component here, and we're going to add a comment. So we'll select a face that we want to assign this comment to, and we'll go ahead and add that comment. And here you can see that there are a few changes with if you're a traditional user of comments. One, you can format your text with bold, italics, underlined, as well as a couple other enhancements. But the pictures, we can still insert pictures, we can insert decals and things like that. So in this case, we want to insert this decal, and we can also now, as a new feature, choose the color of the note, and we can assign what that color represents in the document properties, allowing you to choose a different set of settings for each document. We also have the option added to show on open. So now when you have a teammate open up that file, or even yourself, you'll see that comment, and that will keep showing up on open until it is taken care of and checked off. Now, in terms of resetting your customizations, if you're a toolbar user, you know that it can get pretty easy to clutter up your interface by adding toolbar after toolbar after toolbar. Now, within the reset to defaults options in the customize menu, you have a little bit more of an option to fine tune. So instead of resetting everything, you have the option just to reset your toolbars, get a nice clean view, and then you can start again and get your essential toolbars in there rather than cluttering your view. And then the last thing that I want to take a look at for the user experience is the enhanced graphics performance. That's been around for a couple years now, but the stability of this has been a strong emphasis so that it's more stable for users, because it really does provide a great enhancement to the viewing experience in your graphics window when you're panning and rotating your models. So with the user experience covered, let's go ahead and take a look at parts and features. With the parts and features, we're going to be taking a look at the DTV shredder. In parts and features, we have had enhancements such as the ability to now scribe with single line fonts using the wrap feature. We can now address library feature errors more efficiently. We can add construction lines to ellipses and sketches. We now have the ability to add equations to translations and rotations in the move copy bodies command. And we now have the ability to create a defeatured part as a configuration rather than a separate linked part file. So jumping into the assembly here, we're going to focus in on the handle grip here. And you can see here that there's a single line sketch, which we can now use with the wrap feature, which is great for scribing serial numbers or model names right into your parts. Now, in addition, we want to add the logo onto the end of the handle here, and we have a library feature that will allow us to do that. And we drop it in here, but it's not actually on the part. So if we go ahead, you'll see a notification that it has errors with the selection because it's not actually cutting into anything. Rather than deleting it and then having to go in and fix it and then re-enter it, it will allow you to go ahead and keep the selection there and just edit it after it has already been added to your feature tree, increasing your efficiency if you're using library features. Now, in addition to the changes that we've already made, we want to go ahead and add a grip texture to this handle. So we'll go ahead and start a sketch and add an ellipse in. And you can see now we have the option to add construction lines. This can be really useful when you're adding horizontal or vertical relations and just overall dimensioning and sizing of your component, making it easier to work with sketch ellipses overall. Now that we have the sketch entered here, we'll also want to go ahead and we're going to assign this a variable, a global variable as its length. And we're going to go ahead and pattern this to create a circular and linear pattern here. And we'll go ahead and open up the move bodies and move and copy bodies command. And you can see we can enter in an equation right into the translation inside of the move copy bodies command. And now, since we have this linked to an equation, we can go in and edit it really easily by adjusting our global variables, which we have as length, spacing, and instances. So one thing that we didn't take a look at in that video there was just the defeature part to configuration. Just as I mentioned earlier, you can now create it as a configuration. So if you're not using defeature at all, it allows you to take a part that has a lot of complex, such as if you are actually modeling in threads or anything, and you need that for maybe a print, you're able to create a defeatured configuration now and have that defeatured configuration in your assembly to increase your assembly performance. This was available. However, in the past, you had to create it as a separate part file, which was linked back to the original. A couple of additional enhancements when it comes to parts and features, and specifically in the move copy bodies command, you now have an Euler method for angular rotation. So traditionally, angular rotation was based off of an absolute axes of your model, and with the Euler method it will be relative to your model, and it is then therefore order dependent. So if you want to rotate something about the x and then about the relative y, you can do that with the Euler method. And additionally, you can now have configuration support for your translation, and the rotation method configuration support is for Euler only. And then same thing for equations. You can enter in equations for the Euler method when it comes to rotation, and then you of course saw that in the video for the translation as well. So now that we've taken a look at parts and features, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the enhancements. One of the enhancements with the administration side of things is an update to the network licensing when it comes to flow simulation. You now have the option to automatically load flow simulation add-in modules if available. So if you're someone that typically goes in and uses flow simulation and everyone in your organization uses it if available, then you can turn this on rather than having to go in and choose that for activation down the road once you have SOLIDWORKS open. Another update to the administration side of things is an update to notifications with term licensing. So if you're using term licensing, you will now receive notification when it's going to expire within 15 days. That will make sure that you don't come into work one day all of a sudden to find out your license expired and you have to go through the process of reactivating that. This will give you plenty of time to make sure that you are up and running and reactivated if needed. So with that, let's go ahead and start taking a look at some more design tools with 3D Sculptor. With 3D Sculptor, we're going to take a look at the C-Scooter design. And 3D Sculptor, if you're not familiar, is one of the browser-based design apps that we have for subdivision modeling, and that will allow you to get really nice industrial design type shapes with a push-pull type environment rather than complex surfacing, which takes a long time to learn with parametric modeling. With 3D Sculptor, with the 3D Experience apps that are specific to the 3D Experience platform, such as 3D Sculptor, it will have a little bit of a difference in how new features are released. They're actually released in packages throughout the year rather than all at the new year release. So some of these have been around for a couple of months here, but if you're unfamiliar or just unfamiliar with the role altogether, this is a great overview. And some of the more recent enhancements, such as the net surface working zone, really changed the way that you look at this app. The net surface will allow you to create a surface with a more traditional parametric approach, such as a loft, and it actually turns it into a subdivision surface, which you can then push and pull. The working zone is another enhancement that was really highly desired, in which you can choose a set of nodes or faces and exclude the rest of the model from being editable and allowing you to really tune in what you're working on. So we'll just go ahead and jump in here, and with this we have reference sketches, and we'll go ahead and enter in what's called a primitive shape here. And we can go ahead and scale that to a specific size. And we can use our what's called robot manipulator to go ahead and push and pull, rotate selected nodes, faces, edges, whatever your selection is. Now we went ahead and added another loop, and we can also go ahead and subdivide faces further to get more and more control. So you can start out kind of coarse and tune as you need. You can also crease edges because everything will start out as nice and smooth, but you can go ahead and sharpen edges and tune how sharp you want that edge. Now this is all on the 3D Experience platform in your browser. You can do this phone, computer, tablet. We also have collaboration tools built into this, such as task management. So you can see you've been signed to go ahead and add this component in. And we'll go ahead and update our teammate that we're currently working on this. We have a sketch that we have to align the subdivision model to, so we can align that right to that sketch. And we can also choose how much of an offset with a parametric dimension added to that. Then you can also see symmetry is being applied, where we're changing one side and it's automatically updating the other. And we can go ahead and extrude additional material as well. So you can start adding more and more material as needed. Now, in addition to adding material, we can also go ahead and just throw in a separate body that then merges in. And we'll go ahead and select the top of this fin here. And we'll just go ahead and draw a line where we want that to kind of tune our shape. And it gives a really artistic capability to modeling here. Now we got an error that some of the mesh was intersecting, and we can use the visualization tools to see exactly where that problem is, go in and tune that so it's nice clean geometry. This is the net surface feature that I was mentioning, where you can use a more traditional lofting surface approach, but now it's a subdivision surface. So we can go in and we'll use a working zone to select exactly what we want to edit and exclude the rest from being able to edit those nodes, and we can go in and tune that shape just how we'd like it. Now this is going to be an actual manufactured part. This is too big for it to all be manufactured in one component. So we can go ahead and split this body into different components that will be used for manufacture, throw this in as an attachment to that task that we looked at earlier, and go ahead and update that to completed so our teammate knows that that's good to go and it's attached so that they have easy access to that. This can be now opened up in SOLIDWORKS, and you can make this, you can add downstream features such as shelling it out, adding ribs, and make this more manufacturable. This is still linked back to that original 3D Sculptor file. So if you need to go back, you can tune that shape, and these downstream features will then update to that tuned shape. So that's a quick look at 3D Sculptor. There's some really powerful capabilities, especially when you take into consideration how complex that would be to create with traditional parametric surface modeling. Highly recommend checking out the 3D Sculptor. And if you have any questions and want to learn more about that and how that could be used for you, please don't hesitate to reach out after. Happy to jump on a call and go more in depth on a specific use case for your organization. So now that we've taken a quick look at the 3D Sculptor role on 3D Experience, let's jump into 3D Creator, which is now with the 3D Creator role, we're going to carry on the same story with the C-Scooter, and there's been some nice enhancements throughout this year. As I mentioned with 3D Sculptor, the same thing for 3D Creator. These enhancements are released throughout the year. Some nice enhancements such as the ability to import your electrical CAD, so your circuit boards, IDF files, into your mechanical CAD. Things like the variable fillet and SmartMates. These things have been found in SOLIDWORKS, and a lot of people really like those for this workflow. However, this 3D Creator gives you the ability to design in a browser, so you're able to take those parametric design capabilities and design with a flexibility that you've never had before. So we'll jump into the interface here and note that this is in a browser. So you're able to carry this design out and jump from computer to computer because that data management is included right there. You get cloud-based storage, everything included with this tool. We'll go ahead and sketch a component out here with very familiar SOLIDWORKS to SOLIDWORKS users, the sketching commands. And we'll take this extrude, actually switch it to a sweep, and we'll do a swept cut here to have a groove for an O-ring. And we'll adjust the parameters. So you're able to have those type of global variables here where you can go ahead and change that downstream really easily. Now we want to add another extrusion for standoffs. We'll go ahead and choose to create a sketch directly from that feature and choose the face here, and then we'll go ahead and add the sketch for the standoffs we'd like. Now with this sketch, we're actually able to use design intelligence, and it will estimate where you would like more of those. So it actually just did a circular pattern around that for us. Now with this, we're going to go ahead and extend this secondary standoff a little bit further, and then we're going to adjust the fillet here, and we're able to have variable fillets right in the interface as well. Now that we've completed the component, we're going to go ahead and throw this into an assembly. So you're able to manage your assemblies in this tool as well. When it comes to mating components, very similar. You can go ahead and select the faces that you'd like to make. You get a quick context toolbar and able to choose the mate right there from that flyout. Now we also added a sweep here, and we're able to actually take that feature that's in a part and move it to a new part. So now that O-ring is its own part directly from the feature of the original part. And we'll go ahead and import an IDF file for our circuit board here, and we want to mate these screws in place. We can actually do that using smart mates just by clicking and dragging. It will have intelligence to choose what kind of mate you'd like, and then we'll also use that design intelligence to apply the screws to the rest of the holes for that circuit board. Now we'll go ahead and add another component, and we want to go ahead and copy this component. However, we can copy it with the mates. So we're able to apply those mates, the concentric mate there, and we're able to go ahead and have design intelligence really speed up our workflow when it comes to designing and building assemblies. So that is the 3D Creator role that can be used in conjunction with the 3D Sculptor role. You can have all of these tools work together in SOLIDWORKS Cloud Offer actually. So you're able to use SOLIDWORKS Cloud to have a front-to-end design workflow right in your browser. In addition, there's been some nice enhancements in the sense of people who like to 3D print objects. So you're able to build a custom bed size and make sure that your parts are going to fit. You're able to do some support analysis, make sure you can choose your overhang angle and make sure that everything is as you would like before you're sending it off to be 3D printed. So now that we've taken a look at 3D Creator, let's jump back to the SOLIDWORKS interface and take a look at sheet metal and structure enhancements. With this group of enhancements, we're going to be taking a look at a track setting machine assembly. This includes enhancements such as the ability to define sensors for your bounding box of sheet metal components, the ability to apply symmetrical thickness for your sheet metal components, as well as add gauge table values to your annotations and drawings for your cut list properties. You can also, when it comes to structural systems, now group similar corners and carry out commands on a large group of corners at once. You can go ahead and configure the size of the weld numbers between different configurations. You can go ahead and zoom to selection. So if you're working on a specific corner, you can zoom right to that corner to find exactly where it is. And you can also pattern connection elements such as gussets. So jumping into the assembly itself, here we have the assembly where it has some hydraulic connection points here that we want to guard with a sheet metal component. We can see that that sheet metal component isn't quite long enough. So we're actually going to go ahead and open that part up and go ahead and edit the length of that. So we can go ahead and choose to extend the length of this. And as we accept this change, we'll notice that there's a warning in our feature tree here. And we can see that there's a sensor for the sheet metal bounding box. So if we go ahead and edit that sensor, you can see that we can set up the bounding box properties here as an option, as you can choose a length, width, the area of the bounding box, and you can choose whether to notify if it's greater or less than a certain value, making sure that your designers don't go over your manufacturing constraints. So we'll go ahead and push this back a little bit to make sure it's manufacturable based off of our available inventory of material. So now that we've gone ahead and made that change, we're going to take a look at the radius. So you can see there's two radius of 1.5 here. Now, if we go to the measure tool, we can see that the outer radius is 1.29, while the inner radius is 1.5. And that's because when you choose a sketch and extrude that out as a sheet metal, it chooses one side or the other of the sketch. Now, we have the option added to have symmetric, where that's using more of like a mid-plane approach. And now we can have the same inner and outer radii for sheet metal components. Additionally, we can go ahead and open this up in the drawing, and we're going to go ahead and add an annotation for the cut list properties. And you'll notice right at the bottom, we have the sheet metal gauge automatically added based off of your gauge table. So jumping back into the assembly, we need to build a shipping crate for this, and we can use structure systems. We have a 3D sketch already created for this, so we'll go ahead and just use a structure system and choose all of those 3D sketch components as primary members. And then we can use secondary members to create cross beams between all of these primary members. So once we have all those primary and secondary members added, we can zoom into this corner and see that it's a 3-way miter. Nobody is ever actually going to manufacture something like that. So we're going to go ahead and have to edit that corner condition. So what we can do is use the corner management and select one of the corners. We have the option now to group similar corners. So it will select all similar corners and group those for us rather than us having to go find those and select them individually. Now with this, we can choose a corner and zoom to selection to pull us right into that corner and get a closer view and change the trim order to make that more manufacturable. And you can see that it applied to all the similar corners that we grouped. Now we'll go ahead and insert a connection element here, and we'll add a gusset between these two members. We now have the ability to pattern these connection elements. So we can choose the gusset that we just added in, and then we can choose to identify the similar corners, and it will add this connection element between all of those similar corners, creating a structure system much faster than ever possible before. One really great enhancement is now the ability to go ahead and change the weldment size between different configurations. So you can have one single part with configured size of your weldment elements. So there's been some great enhancements to the sheet metal and structure system capabilities within SOLIDWORKS, but that leads us to assembly design. And stay tuned, because assembly design and drawings have some of my favorite enhancements for the year. So with assembly design, we're going to be taking a look at a sorting facility layout. Now there are a lot of great enhancements when it comes to assembly design, so I'm not going to go into detail of this entire list, but we have things such as configured skipped instances and patterns. We're able to change the settings for what default name is in your BOM for configurations, different granular options for replacing components, and so many more. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. You can take a look at this list if you'd like, and take a screenshot if you'd like, and review this later. But jumping into the video, we have an assembly here where we have a line of rollers. We're going to focus in on this as a string of rollers here first. You can see that this is a linear pattern currently. And we have different configurations for this. And traditionally, you go into the linear pattern and having to suppress specific instances of that linear pattern. However, now we can go ahead and edit that linear pattern feature, and we have the ability to configure instances that need to be overridden. So we can go ahead and choose this configuration specifically, and we can go ahead and just choose which specific instances not even to include in that configuration to begin with. So we'll go ahead and replace this component. We want a rubber wheel here for better grip, and we have more granular options. So now we have the ability to even choose all of the instances in the same parent assembly, only selected or all. Now we'll go ahead and we just want to change that one that's being patterned and choose a new file to replace it with. We also have the addition of a thumbnail preview of what you're going to be replacing it with to make sure that you're not choosing the incorrect part. So we'll go ahead and replace that, and immediately we get an error that one of the mates has been broken with this. So traditionally you'd have to go in and fix that mate. Now you can go in and edit that and replace the face that has been lost in this translation. Or now with the addition of auto repair, you can go ahead and have SOLIDWORKS try to replace that face for you. You can even do it to a top level folder of mates, allowing it to go in and fix all of the mates available that are broken within that folder. And we get a dialog window here that will allow us to go in further tune that, edit, or undo that auto repair. So we'll go ahead and switch between these configurations, make sure everything looks all right. And we'll jump into the configuration tree and jump into the properties for this configuration. We can see here that the bill of materials is going to use the configuration name. Now we can with 2023, we can now jump into our document properties and choose the default behavior for that. So under the configurations tab, we can choose whether we want to use the document name or configuration name for default when it comes to displaying the bill of materials. Now we'll go ahead and switch out some of these configurations to be in the assembly level how we'd like that to be laid out, and zoom in here on one of the legs here. And with assembly cuts, they now have some enhancements, such as the ability to have the same end conditions as traditionally found in part level cuts. So we can go ahead and choose an up to surface cut for this specific situation, in which we'll go ahead and choose the face behind and cut through that whole top of that leg. And we'll go ahead and choose all of these components to be included for the feature. And we'll go ahead and propagate this feature to the parts. And we'll get a message because there's toolbox components included. Now the toolbox components will automatically be excluded when propagating to parts, even if they're in that selection that you just had. So we'll go ahead and keep all those bodies after the cut and complete that. Now another new enhancement has to do with the magnetic mates here. So we can go ahead and see the references for our magnetic mating. And we now have the ability to suppress or unsuppress specific references when it comes to magnetic mating, making it a little bit more predictable on how you'd like things to mate together. So we'll go ahead and go to that overall top level assembly here, and we'll go ahead and mate this component into place. So we'll go ahead and insert that component in. And we can see the magnetic mates here. Now there's still a little bit too much going on, so we'll go ahead and change the display state and have a little bit more predictable behavior. So we'll go ahead and insert that component back in, and we can see our magnetic mates and go ahead and revert back to the full assembly, and that's now mated into place. Now if you're a user of assembly visualization, these will take away some headaches for you. They're not anything totally groundbreaking, but they're really nice comfort additions here. So we'll go ahead and add a new column, and one of the enhancements here is with the properties drop down. It's now sorted alphabetically, so you don't have to go through and search for a random property that you're looking for, and then you can go ahead and sort by that property. Additionally, if you want to use that rollback bar, that is now it's been expanded, so it's easy to grab onto. So it really creature comforts there, but really can make a nice enhancement in your day-to-day workflow. Now additionally, in our system options, we have the automatically optimized resolved mode, and I'll be diving a little bit more into this. This is one of my favorite enhancements, but this will allow you to actually exclude lightweight mode from your view even, and there's some lightweight capabilities that are automatically included in the resolved mode. So you can see here this 5,000 plus component assembly opened up in around 15 seconds. Another great enhancement is when exporting an assembly to step. If we go into the options for that assembly, we'll have the option to export assembly components as separate step files, rather than you having to go in and export either a very, very large top level step assembly or go through and individually open each of the components and export them as steps. You can have that carried out by exporting the top level assembly to steps and having that setting turned on. So that's a quick overview of some of these items listed. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth on the optimized resolved mode and show you a little bit of a case study here. So we're going to take a look at a spectrograph assembly with around 11,000 and a little over 11,000 and a quarter, 11 and a quarter thousand components here. So with the workflow, we're going to take a look at the difference between 2022 performance and 2023. And we're going to do 2 tests for each of those years. We're going to go ahead and open it up fully resolved and find out that there's a rebuild error and go in and address that error. And then with 2022, we're going to also open it up in lightweight mode and address the error. In 2023, we're also going to open it up in optimized resolved mode and address the error. So starting off in 2022, we're going to open this up fully resolved and time this workflow. So here we can see that we're going to switch it to fully resolved. And we're also going to turn off use large assembly settings to have the fully detailed model loaded into our view here. And we can see that this takes around 2¼ minutes, and we immediately receive a warning that the assembly has rebuild errors. Now we can also see that the rebuild errors are highlighted with yellow text over in our feature tree, so we can quickly navigate and find out exactly where that is and address that error and go ahead and move forward with returning to our assembly. So all told, once we get into returning to the assembly context here, it takes around 2¼ minutes to open with fully resolved and around 2¾ minutes to open and address the issue. Now, jumping to our next case, we're going to open it up in 2022 lightweight mode and then address the issue. So we'll go ahead and switch, keep it set to lightweight, and we'll keep large assembly settings to have the most optimized performance when it comes to opening and navigating through this assembly. We can see that it opened up in right around a minute, which is much faster than with fully resolved. However, you'll see there are some problems that we run into. We get that same rebuild error warning here. However, we see the feature name, we see what subassembly it has to do with, but we don't get that yellow text in the feature tree. We have to go find that, either search for it, or if you know where it is, go ahead and find it. Now, to see this further expanded, we have to expand that out to resolve it. Now we can see that yellow text. However, that error is not in the top level subassembly. So now we have to fully resolve this to find out exactly which component or subassembly it has to do with. So we have to go ahead and resolve this full subassembly here. So now we can find out which part it is and go in and update that and return to the context of the main assembly. But it took around 3½ minutes, which is even longer than if you fully resolved, opened it, and made that edit. Now, jumping into 2023, we're going to start with the same workflow we started with in 2022 and just showing it opened, being fully resolved and repairing that error. So we'll change that to fully resolved and turn off use large assembly settings. Then we'll go ahead and open that. And we'll just speed up through this. We've already gone through this workflow. This is just in 2023 to confirm. And we'll see it's around 2¼ minutes, just like within 2022. And then we'll go ahead and address that issue. And overall, it took around 2¾ minutes. It's very, very similar performance to 2022. Where the big difference comes in is using optimized resolved mode. So with this, we can go into that same assembly and we can choose to open it resolved because lightweight is actually hidden. And we'll go ahead and turn off use large assembly settings. And we'll go ahead and open this. And you can see that this opens up in around a minute. So that has about the same performance when it comes to lightweight mode. And then we'll go ahead and address that issue. Now, what happens here is it has everything opened up in a lightweight state, but it has intelligence to recognize if something has to be automatically resolved. So it'll go ahead and resolve that subassembly that has rebuild errors and allow you to jump in and find where that error is much more quickly. So we have the opening performance of lightweight mode, while at the same time, you're able to carry out that workflow with the same speed you would as if you fully resolved it. So to review the results here, we opened it up in around 2¼ minutes and fully carried out that full workflow in around 2¾ minutes. In lightweight mode, we were able to cut the open time in half, more than half, but it took even longer to carry out the full workflow because it took so long to find out where that error was and address it. With 2023 resolved, it took around the same amount of time as 2022 resolved. 2023 optimized resolved, we can see that it opened up in the same time as lightweight, but we had the same difference in time between opening time and workflow completion time as the fully resolved. So you get the best of both worlds there. So ultimately, between 2022 resolved and 2023 optimized resolved, we have over 200% increase in opening time, or not increase, decrease. It's 200% faster. And then you have a workflow time of 153% faster. Now that is a really powerful enhancement. That's really exciting for me. That's been talked about for some years now, so it's really exciting to see that available. And that's really going to optimize large assembly performance. Now, a couple of final enhancements when it comes to assembly design before jumping into drawings, which also has some really exciting enhancements. The explode lines, if you're building an exploded view in your assembly, you can now change the color in your properties. So you can have those red or orange or however you want to highlight those. You can also choose, if you override something in a design table, such as the mass, it will give you a warning asking if you want to use that value that you put into the design table for your mass property, or if you want to use the model geometry. And then lastly, if you're using a property manager for a custom property manager within your configurations, if that's out of date, the icon will update to let you know to right click and update that. And then lastly, with the external references area in your system options, you now have the option to include subfolders automatically when looking for external references. And this can, if you have a really large directory, i.e. like you just go ahead and choose your top level directory, it can really increase your open time because it will have to go through all of those directories. However, this can really enhance your performance if you just have small levels of searching for it to go through and make sure that all of your components are included. So now that we've taken a look at assembly design, let's go ahead and jump into the enhancements with drawings. And like I said, there were some great assembly design enhancements. Drawing has some powerful enhancements as well. So let's dive right in. With the drawings, we're going to carry on the story with the track setter assembly. And with this, we have enhancements such as the ability to open drawings from the drawing of the parent assembly. So we can open part or sub-assembly drawings right from that main drawing. We're able to highlight which items in your bill of materials have been manually entered. We're able to add quantities and provide some flexibility in how you display those quantities on your auto balloons. We're able to filter your bill of materials, which is my favorite enhancement for drawings. And you're also able to apply different appearances to see through your transparent objects, such as glass that have a transparent appearance applied to them in the model. So jumping in, let's go ahead and take a look, and we'll jump right back to that track setter assembly. We'll go ahead and create a new drawing from that main assembly and throw in a view. Now with this, we'll go ahead and change a scale so it's a little bit larger here, and we'll go ahead and throw in a bill of materials as well. Now, once we have that entered, we want to go ahead and add balloons as well. So we'll throw in some auto balloons. And now we want to open up a drawing of this subassembly so we can open the drawing right from the drawing feature tree here. So we can see that that drawing opens up. Even from a bill of materials, we can choose to open a drawing from that as well. Or the part within a drawing, you can open up, you can just go further and further down in layers of drawings without ever having to open up the parts themselves. Now we'll go ahead and manually type in some values with this bill of material here, and we'll see that they will go ahead and highlight red, signifying that they've been manually entered. And that's actually a system option of your colors. So we can go ahead and restore values if desired. It won't print with that color. It's just an internal on display color to let you know that that's been manually modified. Now, when it comes to auto balloons, we can go ahead and include the quantities here, and you'll see that the quantities appear now, and we'll go ahead and clean that up a little bit here. And then you can go ahead and change any precursors or choose ones that you don't want to have the quantity to tune that further. Now, my favorite enhancement with drawings is the ability to filter your bill of materials, and you can filter this by the properties and columns that are shown here. This will allow you to really easily create purchase bill of materials, sheet metal, laser cut bill of materials, any type of customization based on your properties without having to export it and then edit downstream. So this provides a lot of flexibility when it comes to bill of materials inside of SOLIDWORKS. So we can just take a moment and really appreciate the power of this enhancement and the flexibility that you can provide with your bill of materials. And once you have it configured, you can go ahead and save that off as your CSV or Excel files for delivering downstream. Now we can also make anything that's in your SOLIDWORKS model as transparent, show up as transparent in your drawing as well. We have the option by clicking on a view to go ahead and see through those transparent components. You also have the option to just have that as a default for the document, that specific document in the document properties. You can have that set up in your drawing templates. So you can go ahead and insert anything, and you'll be able to better see graphically what that will actually look like once produced. Now, beyond some of those enhancements that we saw there, I have a couple of additional enhancements that weren't included in that video. There's a few here specifically with geometric tolerancing. So one, we have the ability to apply standards to a document properties, and this will prevent people from using unwanted geometric tolerance conditions when they're creating the drawings. So you can set that up in your drawing templates and then have specific commands available when people are adding these. Now, another thing is that's been added is the ability to add a vector as a translator translational modifier. Additionally, the dynamic profile tolerance was added in the ASME Y14.5 and 2018 update, and this is now available in SOLIDWORKS 2023. And then lastly, for geometric tolerancing, we have the ability to go ahead and type in a manual value for the max tolerance without having to go in after the fact and have a manual text entry for that. And then the last update overall that I want to review really quickly for drawings is the ability to include non-circular items, including non-circular holes or slots into your hole table. And this is a top 10 SPR, so this is really exciting for a lot of users out there. Will bring a lot of power to your hole tables in your SOLIDWORKS drawings. So now that we've covered assembly design and drawings, let's go ahead and jump into routing. Now, I know we're going through time pretty fast here, and I'm throwing a lot of information at you. So with the remainder of these objects, some of them I might go through a little bit of a faster summary rather than an in-depth view. But if you have any questions about these capabilities that I'm describing and you'd like to see more information or a demonstration of these being utilized, please reach out to us and we'll go ahead and connect on a call and show you how they can be used for your organization. Now with the routing capabilities, we have the enhanced electrical attributes, and we'll take a look at each of these in a little bit more detail. Multi-circuit splices, flatten route improvements, and library manager enhancements. So starting out with the attributes, you have the ability to display your diameter and length for selected route segments. And you can go ahead, in this image here, you can see the diameter and length shown here. Now, in terms of the cross-section, you have the option right here on the side panel to show cross-section, and you can see how the wires and cables in a bundle are going to be arranged. In terms of the flattened harness improvements, we have enhanced capabilities to intelligently stack balloons. So it gives a nice organized feeling to your drawings when you have a flattened harness drawing. You also have the ability to cross highlight between your table and your connector. So you can see here, table selected, it's highlighting the connector it's referencing to give you contextual information on what you're viewing. And lastly, for this section here, we have the ability to propagate added columns to all connector tables. So you have 4 or 5 connector tables. You don't have to go through and manually add a column for a new property on each individual one. When you add it to one of the connector tables, you will have the option up here to ask you if you would like to add it to all others or if it's just for this connector table. We also have the added capability for multi-circuit splices, and this will allow you to set up multiple C points and allow you to have more complex wiring scenarios in your models. And then lastly, for routing, we have enhancements to the routing library manager. Overall, it's just going to launch faster. You're going to have a better experience opening it and more responsiveness when you're actually using it. And another enhancement is just the interface has been redesigned completely to be more user-friendly. So now that we've taken a look at routing enhancements, let's jump right into Visualize for the rendering enhancements. With Visualize, we've had a few imports that really make your user experience a lot more friendly. Number one, importing SOLIDWORKS data into SOLIDWORKS Visualize will maintain your SOLIDWORKS structure that you had in your assembly tree in SOLIDWORKS, so you're able to navigate the assembly in Visualize, especially if you were the designer that worked on the product to begin with. Now, when it comes to PBR materials, if you're familiar with PBR materials, the preview for the appearance of these has been improved in preview mode, which allows you to pan around and then you get a better idea of what it's going to look when you process your final render. And then we've also introduced the Stellar Render Engine, which is driven by Dassault Systems. So in terms of this release, you're probably not going to notice a ton of performance difference between these two engines. However, this gives us a lot of flexibility in future releases to have really great enhancements, as we'll be able to drive the engine as well. And then there's also been a number of enhancements when it comes to the color picker. Number one, you can undock it and keep it available as you're going through your workflow. Number two, you can import a whole color palette to make sure that you're maintaining your branding with this product. You have hue sliders for RGB and HSV modes. You can see in that middle image here, we have these sliders. There's hex code support, so if you'd like to just go ahead and type in or paste a hex code, you have that option as well. We have the color picker preview and large, so if you can drag that color picker and select from various different windows or something images you may have open in your interface on your computer. And then lastly, we have the ability to maintain the 8 most recent used colors, giving you a longer history to go back and choose something that you've been using within this design. So now that we've taken a look at the rendering enhancements with Visualize, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the capabilities introduced in cloud collaboration. Now, as I mentioned with the 3D Experience side of things, you get updates released throughout the year. So instead of from 2022 to 2023 all being released at once, these features have actually been released throughout this year, and the features we'll be reviewing here are actually already available to you. So let's just go ahead and jump in at some of the top updates I wanted to review. Number one, matching the drawing title to the parent. So this allows you to make sure that your drawing title is aligned to its parent part or assembly automatically. Number two, SOLIDWORKS Data Exchange allows SOLIDWORKS users on 3D Experience to collaborate with non-3D Experience data management users. And then number three, we have Show Drawings and Product Structure Explorer, which allows you to have your assembly structure and see exactly which components already have drawings created, as well as the ability to expand those drawings and have quick access to them. And number four, Data Extraction Utility, which allows SOLIDWORKS users on the platform to go ahead and download any of their SOLIDWORKS data without even having SOLIDWORKS installed. You just can get somewhat in a sense of pack and go of all of that SOLIDWORKS data for an assembly exported directly to your computer. So jumping into a workflow here, we have an assembly open here. So we'll go ahead and jump into creating a drawing for one of these components. And we can see that this is called 17-849. So if we go ahead and create a drawing for this and then jump into our 3D Experience data management add-in here, we can go down to the Tools tab and open up the settings, and we see an option to use the part or assembly title as a new drawing title, and we can do that on a first save or on every save. So in this case, you can see that it already pulled the name of that part in, so we'll go ahead and save it up to the data management system, and we'll go ahead and open up the part and change the title. So we'll go ahead and give a little suffix here, and we'll go ahead and save this change up to the data management system. Now, when we go up and open that drawing, we can see that the drawing automatically changed its name to align with its reference part or assembly, and that's because we have that setting to update on every save. So now we can go ahead and update that and save that update to the data management system so that it is aligned with its reference part. Now, jumping back into the assembly, on the Tools tab, we have the option for export, and this is going to open up a package, and you can see a whole list of the product structure, and you can also have the option to include drawings with the components that are in that assembly. So if we go ahead and scroll down, we'll now see that at the bottom of this package, the drawings that are included in any of these parts or subassemblies or assembly are included. We also have the option to choose for edit or read only. So now, once this is all tuned to how you'd like to collaborate with somebody that's not on 3D Experience, you can choose a location locally on your computer to export a package. And this will actually generate what's called a solid package file. And it's going to be one singular file. You can then deliver this to a non-3D Experience user, and they can, if they're using an older version of SOLIDWORKS prior to 2022 SP3, then they're going to be able to download a free add-in, and they'll be able to import and work with the 3D Experience data with the metadata intact. Once they deliver it to you, you can then go ahead and re-import that package, and you can see anything that was newly added to the assembly. You can see any components that have changed, and then you can go ahead and open that and save those changes up to your data management system. Now, jumping into the browser side of things, we just opened up this assembly in the Product Structure Explorer app, and we have the ability to go ahead and tune what columns we have. So we'll turn on CAD dependencies of, and this is going to show us which components already have drawings created, and we'll also go ahead and show the relations for those components. So expanding this, we can see that some of these have check marks, and if we expand those further, we can see that there's drawings associated to these. So this gives you a really quick view of which components have drawings and quick access to those drawings. In addition, we also have the ability on the Tools tab to choose Export. And this is if you're a SOLIDWORKS user, you have 3D Experience SOLIDWORKS or Collaborative Designer for SOLIDWORKS. You can go ahead and choose to export your CAD files, include your drawings if you'd like, and choose to export. Once this export is complete and ready for download, you'll get a notification, and you can go ahead and open that notification up to open up the option to download all files. And this will open up a folder with all of the drawings, parts, and assemblies associated with that top level assembly. And like I said, you don't even have to have SOLIDWORKS installed. So this gives you flexibility when it comes to your products all being released. You have access to that data on any computer as long as you're a SOLIDWORKS user, and you can download that and deliver that off to any non-3D Experience users as well. So that was a quick view of some of the enhancements. There's been many more enhancements over this last year, and there's many more to come. But those were just 4 enhancements that I thought were really valuable to a lot of users. So I wanted to go over those really quick. And now that we've covered cloud collaboration, let's go ahead and take a look at SOLIDWORKS structural simulation. SOLIDWORKS simulation has had a number of enhancements, and we'll just jump right in. Starting off with penalty stiffness control for contact. There's now a contact penalty stiffness scale factor available for your linear static studies, and this will sacrifice some of your contact pressure accuracy. However, your solve times will greatly reduce. So if you're going and attempting to iterate quickly, you can have this scaled down to approximate the value, and this will give you much faster solve times. As you get closer to what you like your end design to be, you can go ahead and get a more precise calculation by increasing the scale factor. Now there's also improved bonding interactions for non-touching faces, so we can see that this threaded hole and this feature back here have a local interaction for contact, even though that they're not facing each other. There's no projection area between them. They have that relation. When it comes to diagnostic tools for the interface side of things, that has now been accumulated under a single dropdown. When it comes to larger assemblies, it can be hard to manage all of your under-constrained bodies. So with the introduction of the single value decomposition solver, we now have much faster solve times when it comes to solving for which bodies are under-constrained. And then we also have much better visualization by hiding kind of a transparent view of your constrained and showing your under-constrained bodies. And we can see that this is available with Simulation Professional and Premium only, so this is not included with Standard. Similarly, only in Professional and Premium, the linkage rod connector that's been available for linear static studies has been introduced to nonlinear static and dynamic studies as well. So now that we've taken a look at SOLIDWORKS simulation, let's take a look at how you can expand your simulation capabilities with the Simulia roles on the 3D Experience platform. Now, as these are newer capabilities available to the SOLIDWORKS community, I'm just going to do a little bit of an overview. This Simulia-based roles on the 3D Experience platform will take you beyond the capabilities available even in SOLIDWORKS Simulation Premium. So you're able to have extremely highly nonlinear, explicit dynamic simulations. Another big advantage over SOLIDWORKS Simulation is you have the option for cloud compute. So you can, included depending on which package, there's a number of cloud cores included, and then you can have a token system in which you can have up to 144 cores running on a simulation. So if you're dealing with large simulations that take a lot of time, if you have a simulation that you need results fast, this type of solution will give you that option to run a simulation with a large number of cores on the cloud. And you can bring in set up SOLIDWORKS simulations that are already set up and bring them in and just go ahead and run them in this new tool. And just to give you a preview, this is just an example of something going through failure. And this just is so far beyond SOLIDWORKS simulation. And it's just incredible what capabilities come with the Simulia simulation roles. So if you're interested in learning more about what capabilities are available, be happy to jump on a call and talk to you more about those capabilities. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at SOLIDWORKS flow enhancements. When it comes to SOLIDWORKS flow simulation, we have a list of enhancements here. Again, I know we're running short on time, so I don't want to go through every single one of these. If you can take a screenshot, review these. If you see anything specifically that you'd like to go over in more detail, please let us know. Again, we'll jump on a call and show you exactly how that can be beneficial for you. But the two I'd like to focus on are the mesh Boolean operation and the last one there, solver monitor. So with the mesh Boolean operation, new technology has been introduced where you can prepare and mesh your product with much less preparation and in a much faster time. So that's going to be applicable to anyone generating meshes for a simulation. And again, the last one is very general as well. There's been some enhancements made to the memory freeing for meshing and solving commands that will allow them to wrap up much more quickly and speed up your time. So we have two enhancements that just everybody will benefit from enhanced speed when it comes to generating and preparing, as well as solving your flow simulations. So with that, we're going to wrap up with integrated manufacturing. So just like the Simulia roles with the structural simulation, we also now have access to the Delmia side of manufacturing tools available to the SOLIDWORKS community with the 3D Experience platform. The base role for this is called NC Shop Floor Programmer, and this gets you up to 3-axis capabilities. However, there are additional capabilities that can be found in other packages that will get you highly advanced mill turn multi-axis capabilities. Even with the basic, everyone has a setup wizard to help you with the new interface. You have automatic hole and feature recognition. You can get advanced surface capabilities to get that multi-axis path generation, automatic boundary calculation. And one of my favorite parts about this is each seat, regardless if it's the lower end NC Shop Floor Programmer or really advanced mill turn capabilities, each one has full machine simulation included in it. And then you're also provided with post-processors for up to 3-axis machining. And with that machine simulation, this will allow you to make sure that you don't have any collisions and you can machine things right the first time, making sure that you're optimizing your throughput. And like I mentioned, those post-processors are provided for up to 3-axis by ICAM, also included with every seat, regardless if it's NC Shop Floor Programmer or the higher end ones. Every seat comes with wire EDM capabilities. So that is a wrap for what's new in 2023. First, I'm going to jump back and connect with Stephen, and then let's take some time for questions. Alrighty, and we're back with Stephen now. What was your favorite feature of that What's New content, Stephen?
Well, I'm sticking with it. I mean, it definitely has to do with the sheet metal functionality and the ability to, set up your sensors with bounding boxes. I mean, how many times do we're running into sheet sizes and different things out in manufacturing, and then you go through, you design up the whole product and like, shoot, that didn't fit on a 60 by 120 sheet, or that didn't fit on the sheet size that I expected. So I can see that as being a huge opportunity. And then also, like I'd mentioned, the BOM's amazing ability to go through and filter down based on the Excel functionality. So obviously there's a laundry list and there's more to it, and there's a lot of functionality there that is exciting to get into 2023.
Yeah, absolutely. That BOM filtering that's gonna be pretty much anybody that creates a SolidWorks drawing off an assembly is going to be able to take advantage of that in some way or another. There's a lot of flexibility with that tool and what you could do with that, and very powerful enhancement.
Yeah, I guess from your side, as far as, SolidWorks platform, kind of what are some of the things that you think, our users and customers are going to be most excited about?
Yeah, I mean, you have to draw a little bit of a line there with the platform. It's released in a bit of a different way, so they're already seeing some of these features. So, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, if you saw something on the platform side of things, that's available now. Like, you can get in there and start testing that now. Contact us how you want to use that. From the SolidWorks perspective, that is coming in November, and the SolidWorks, like actual CAD application and simulation, actual desktop SolidWorks portion of it. But I'd say that what got me really excited, beyond that BOM enhancement, the sheet metal was really cool as well. Just the overall enhancements to assembly performance is really exciting to see. That's just been getting better year over year. And that's a hurdle for a lot of people when they start maxing out capacity. Beyond maxing out capacity, it is a lot of knowledge to know, like best practices on how to maximize performance of an assembly. By just having better performance built into the software, it gets people up and running with larger assemblies earlier. And then they can build that knowledge over time and really get in there. So it's really exciting to see an increased emphasis on increasing the stability of that large assembly performance.
You bet. So what are we doing now? What's next?
Absolutely. So we went through a ton of content there. Like I said, there's no way that we could, in an hour, get through the details of every single new feature. So we really like to take that consultative approach, as we mentioned. If you saw anything that you want to use for your organization, you'd like to learn more about it, feel free to send us an email. We'll be sending an email out after this. You can reply right to that email, and we can get a call scheduled where we can jump in, hear a little bit about what you think you could use it for, and validate that case for you and talk through that with you from a consultative approach. And then beyond that, if you're down the road, you don't have that email, you're seeing this as a recording or anything, you can always head to our website, SWYFTSOL.com, and you'll be able to see a contact form on there. You can send us contact a request as well.
What else happens when you go to the website? I think you're going to get a pop-up, and it's going to have my email address right there. So feel free to send me an email just from that pop-up that comes up right when you jump into the website. Unless we've changed it by the time you've watched this. But
alrighty, any closing comments before we close out the stream, Stephen?
Not for me.
Alrighty, thank you for joining, everyone, and talk to you soon.